Hey everybody, welcome to a Cricut craft tutorial. Today we are going to be doing the round wood platters. You can actually use these as lots of things, clocks, signs, just about everything. So all you need, I got this from Home Depot for about $6. Sanded it down a little bit just so I made sure it was nice and smooth. And obviously we're doing this outside because you do not want to stain in your house, it smells. So we're going to use this type of stain. It's Minwax Wood Finish Penetrating Stain in Natural number 209. Basically this is just going to kind of enhance the color of our wood. I didn't want to do anything too dark because the person that I'm giving this to, their kitchen's kind of light. And then I'm also going to use a application pad. I will put a link for this and for the Minwax below. But all we're going to do is dip our stain into our jar here, or our applicator, and then you're just going to wipe it with the grain, so towards the grain. You don't want to go against the grain. You don't want to go like side to side like this. But you want to go this way since our grain is running this way. And being that this is a natural colored stain, it's not going to show a whole lot of change in the color. You guys might be able to see it here along the edge. It just looks like I'm getting it wet. But like I said, I didn't want to do anything too dark, too out of the ordinary on this one. Just because I know that the person who it's going to likes to have a lighter look on their things. But this is just going to enhance that color. You'll see that as we're going, that wood grain is standing out more and more. So you just want to make sure that you get this stain all around the edges. And for this one, we're going to go ahead and eventually flip it over and do the other side because we want it to look nice on both sides. But as you're doing the edges, just make sure that you're not leaving any big globs on the sides. And you just want to make sure you get all around all the edges. Now I did miss a little bit of the edge with the sander, but that's alright. If you miss a little piece, no big deal. Nobody will notice. So just wipe that on. And just make sure you didn't miss anywhere. And I'm using the sun a little bit to see where my project is wet and where it seems to be dry. So we're just going to make sure that we get this in there. Didn't miss any spots around our edges because we want our edges to look really nice, because this is a piece that you'll see pretty much all the parts of it, so you just want to make sure that you get it really good. And that's pretty much all there is to staining it. When you're ready, what we'll do is we'll flip it over and we'll be able to get the bottom. But I want to show you guys, and hopefully you guys can see this. See how much brighter and that wood looks now versus the side that we didn't stain yet. You can see this one's just a little bit darker. Pulls out some of that wood grain and some of those pretty knots that are in this wood. This is just pine, but you can do a lot with it to make it look like a more expensive wood. So we're going to go ahead and let that dry. Once that's finished drying, we'll flip it over. We'll do the other side. When we come back, I'm going to show you guys how to install our handles. Also, I want to mention wear gloves because then the stain doesn't get all over your hands. But I just got these handles at Home Depot. They were, I think, like $1.98 or something. They were really super cheap. And all we're going to do is just put those right on there just to make it so that they can carry the tray. We're ready to put the handles on our tray. So you're going to need a drill. Got this one. And first thing you're going to want to do is drill a pilot hole so that you don't split your wood. So you're just going to put your handles where you want them. I didn't measure, I just sort of eyeballed it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you're just going to drill just a small hole. And you don't want to go all the way down. Just a little. And you're going to do this for all 4 of your screw holes. And then you're going to just do it to your other handle. Let me make sure those look pretty lined up. All I'm doing to line them up is I'm just using the wood grain and just sort of following it over and just eyeballing where it looks like it's about lined up. Again, these don't have to be perfect. Also helps you turn the drill the right way. Alright, so now that we've drilled our pilot holes, we're ready to put in our screws. The handles that I got did come with screws. So you want to make sure that you do find the right bit. We're going to replace the bit, and then we will put the screws in. Changed our drill bit into the Phillips head bit. So now all we have to do is put our screws in. So you just make sure that you're lined up with your pilot hole for your screw. And you're just going to screw it right on in. Guys, this part is pretty simple. If you don't have like a big drill like this one, some of the little Ryobis that a lot of the crafters use work really well as well. I lost my pilot hole. I have a nice little crafting one that works pretty good for this type of stuff too, so don't worry if you don't have anything, you know, crazy big like this one. You'll be fine without it. And if you missed the pilot hole, it's alright, because I completely missed it. Like I always tell you guys, nobody's perfect, and if you mess it up, it's okay. The only person who will notice is you. Alright, I'm apparently going to have to screw this one off camera because this one is just being a jerk. I think it's right on a knot. So when we come back, these will be screwed on. But it's really, honestly, very simple. If you guys have any questions about this part, feel free, leave them below. I will get these screwed in and then we'll be able to put the vinyl on. Alright, so after our mishap with the drill and drilling into a knot, we have our handles on our board. They're nice and sturdy. And now we'll be able to use it as a tray. So like I said, when we come back, we'll put the vinyl on the center. We're going to measure and make sure we know how big we want to make our decal, and then we can apply it. We're going to go into our design space so that we can make the vinyl design for our round wooden tray. So we're just going to start a new project. And all we're going to do with this one, I think what I want to do is do welcome to our home and our names and established. So just make it something fun and cute. So what I want to start with is a shape, and I'm going to start with a circle, and I'm going to use this like a template so that I can see what it's going to look like. I know that my wood round is 17.75 inches around. So all I'm going to do is up here in the size is enter 17.75 and hit enter, and it will automatically make my circle that big. So I'm just going to go ahead and scroll this out a little bit so we can see it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a little square, and I'm going to just make it a different color real quick so that we can see it. We'll just make it pink. And I'm going to unlock it by using the little lock, and I can scroll back in a little bit so you guys can see. Whoops, I did not want to do that. So here's our square. We're going to unlock the shape by clicking the little lock button. And then I'm going to kind of measure out how big my handles were. The handles are about 5.2 inches tall, so I'm just going to put 5.25. We'll just overdo it a little bit. And then width-wise, they're pretty small. They're about an inch wide, so I'm just going to go over here to the top and change the width to an inch. And then I'm going to duplicate this because we're going to use these as a marker for where our handles are, just to kind of give us an idea. So I'm going to scroll back out a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and move this circle down so we can see better. And you can pretty much find the center of your circle because this right here is where like the center is, and this is the center. So you can easily just use these markers to find the center of your circle. And I know that I put my handles about 12 inches apart from each other. So I know I have about 12 inches to work with in the center. Now you could figure this out and you could totally measure this, and I'll show you guys real quick how you can do that. You can just use another square. And I have no idea where it put my other square. Sometimes you have to find where it puts your shape because it likes to put them in really random spots. There it is. So I'm going to change my square. I'm again going to unlock it. And this time I just want to make it an even 12 inches wide. And all I'm going to do is use this as kind of a measurement tool to move my handles over. So I'm going to try to get my square about centered with my circle. That's probably pretty good. And all I'm going to do is just move these little handles over so that it gives me a better idea of what sizing I'm working with. Now we can get rid of this little square. We don't need it for anything. So with our text, I'm going to do something fairly simple. Let me scroll back in because we're going to go ahead and we'll make these and then we'll place them later. So that's way too big. So I'm just going to add our text. Sorry guys, I don't know why this thing is not sizing the way I want. There we go. So I know that I want to do welcome in all caps. And I want something kind of blocky. I'm never a big fan of the Cricut sans, so all I'm going to do is just go over here, find a font that I like. I actually kind of like that for it, so we'll just make that big. That's going to be one word, and I'm actually going to change the spacing because I don't like how far the COM is from the rest. So all I'm going to do is ungroup it by clicking ungroup up here after I've selected the word. Take this, select it by clicking the left mouse button and drawing a square around the 4 letters that you want, and I'm just going to move that over, and I think that just looks a little bit better. I'm just going to select the whole word again and group it. That way I don't accidentally grab a letter. And then all I'm going to do is do to our, and I think I will leave that one not all caps. And I think we'll make that one probably bigger too so we can just see it. And again, I'm not a big fan of the spacing on it, so I'm just going to ungroup. You guys could use letter spacing. The reason I'm not is because I'm really only not a fan of maybe 1 or 2 letters and their spacing. That's why I'm ungrouping to do this, because I just don't want to move every letter. I only want to move a couple, because I just didn't like how far out that O was. Wasn't a fan, and I think that looks just a little bit more done. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to select all those letters and regroup them. If you have grouped and ungrouped, you cannot go back and change it. And actually, I can show you guys. Let me just go here, and I'll show you exactly where my inspiration for this is coming from. I always tell you guys, especially on our Facebook groups, look at Pinterest. There's lots of inspiration, and I found mine on here. I just looked up wood round tray, and I found this one right here, which says welcome to our home. And I actually sort of like the way they did theirs a little better, so I may do it more like theirs. Now that I'm kind of looking at this again. So we may just go back, and a lot of this is just playing with it. So I've ungrouped and grouped these. I can't do anything as far as curving them. So I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to just start my words all over again because I just don't like the way that I did it. So I'm going to go ahead and do welcome again, and I'm going to go back and look at this because I do like the way theirs is done. So I'm going to do something really similar, but again, this isn't like exact, so you want to kind of make it your own. You don't want to copy every single person's other ideas. You want to be your own person. Like, I don't like that one. I do want a font that's similar to theirs because I like it, and I actually think that one's pretty good. So to curve my text, I'm going to need my circle, which, oops, I didn't want to move it. I'm going to need my circle, so I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to just place my welcome on my circle. And what we're going to do is play with our curve. So you have to select your font to find your curve. And remember, curve is only available in the computer one. So I'm going to select curve. And to play with it, all you do is just do that. And you can move your text so you can get a better idea of how it's going to fit. And you can make it bigger. Because I want the welcome part to be kind of big like theirs is. And make it kind of an important piece. So if we go back and look, their welcome's pretty big and it takes up quite a bit of space. And I still am not sold on this font. I don't love it. I wish it was thicker. So I'm going to go and find a thicker version of something similar to this. I just think it leaves a little bit to be desired. And I don't like that. That looks kind of cheesy in my opinion. A lot of people say, oh, how hard is it to find a font? Sometimes this is like the worst part. Okay, I like that font a lot better. I am going to change my letter spacing a little bit. Once I curve, sometimes I like to change my letter spacing because curving it makes them spread out a lot more. But if you do letter space them and then recurve, you can do that and then you can expand your size. And all it's going to do, it'll keep your letters close together, but it's going to go ahead and, oops, I want to make that just a little bit bigger. I don't like how my M and my E are touching. And I might need to ungroup a little bit just because the W sticks out, but we'll play with it. But a lot of this is just your own personal preference. So, and I will tell you that we're going to have to do this part in a separate piece. Like, we're either going to have to use a larger mat or we may need to cut this in half because you can see that it's 12.78 and my round is pretty big. So we can do the word to. That one's going to come next. So we'll just do text, and I'm just going to use the word to. And I'm going to do that in a different font. And I meant to capitalize, and I totally didn't. Now for something like this, like I said, you're going to make this your own, but you're also going to kind of take some inspiration from others. So I kind of like how their 2 is kind of skinny. So I'm just going to see if I can find kind of a fun skinny font that I like. And I think that one's kind of cute with this. So we're just going to place that right there. I am going to letter space this because they look really far apart. So we'll do them right about there. That looks a little bit better. And we'll go back and resize some things as we go because sometimes it just changes. And the next words are going to be our home, which I don't think were capitalized, just the O. And okay. So for this, I think I want to use Magnolia Sky. So we're just going to search for Magnolia Sky. And I'm just going to see how that looks. And I think that's really, really pretty. So we're going to letter space this because with all the cursive stuff, you want to make it look like it's handwritten. But I can tell you with Magnolia Sky, what I run into is, especially with the O's, they'll touch this letter, the U, before they touch anything else. So we're going to go ahead and letter space it down a little bit, but we're going to have to do a little ungrouping. Because see now how the U is on top of that? We don't want that. So we're going to go ahead, and this is how we want them. So you can go ahead and ungroup them. And we're just going to pull this O away a little bit from that. And I think we're going to probably pull the H away a little. Yeah. And there you go. So now all you have to do is just select them again and group your letters. And like I said, we'll resize everything as we go. So we're just kind of tossing it over here. And then we'll play with the sizing in a little bit. But we're just going to make that kind of big. And then I want to look back over here, and then they have established. So we established our home in 2017. So we're going to go ahead and do established 2017. And there's this, again, a really pretty swirly font. I don't think I want to use Magnolia Sky for this one, and I may actually change the numbers. So let's go ahead and get rid of those because those are going to be a different font. A lot of people have a lot of problems with fonts, and I totally get that. They're not the easiest thing to like learn and kind of figure out what you're working with. I have autumn and November, but I think that's gonna look kind of spacey for that. Yeah, I don't like that one. There's quite a few that you can do, and I just downloaded one and I can't remember the name of it. But that's the thing. And there's a lot of I guess you call them apps. I'm not really sure because they're on your computer. I'm not 100% sure you would call it an app. But you can actually use them and they'll print out or they'll store all of your fonts for you so you can easily just look at them instead of having to scroll like this. And I really need to download one and show you guys how to use it because they have a lot of really nice options for that. Because sometimes scrolling like this can get really annoying. Especially when you're trying to design something. That's Magnolia Sky. We don't like that. There was one I swear I just downloaded and it was so pretty and I wish I could remember the name of it. See, this is when it would come in handy to have that. I swear it had to do with autumn or fall or something like that, but I'm just not seeing it. And sometimes it's just a matter of like trying the font. And sometimes like if I see that I like the font, I'll like retype something from my other word into it just to see if I like it better than the one I chose. I didn't like that one. I don't like that one either. The unicorn fonts from DaFont are super cute. This one's really popular, the Waltograph. That one's the Disney one. And then Watermelon is really cute. And actually, I think we might use Watermelon. I kind of like that one a little bit better than some of the stuff I've seen. So this one we are going to ungroup it just because I can guarantee these letters are not going to sit the way I want them to. So I'm just going to go over and put the E and the S together. And then I'm just going to move the T over. I might pop the T up a little bit. And to be honest, I don't like it. So we're going to go ahead and just, like I said, guys, a lot of this is just playing with, like, your fonts and seeing what you like. And I know, oh, Bromello could be pretty. No, Bromello is not. So I guess we're starting all over at the beginning because I can't remember the name of the font that I liked. So we'll just find one that works for now. I guess we'll go with autumn and November. That one's fine. I see, and sometimes I just end up with the same one that I had before. And that's just how it is. So we'll just use autumn and November. So we're just going to go ahead and move this over into here. I'm going to move it down. And then the text is just the numbers. And again, I'm going to use like a really just simple font for that. Nothing too crazy. I just want something really like plain. So that'll work. The 2018 looks good. And we'll just toss that on here because, again, we're going to put everything together later. And then they have their names. And that's going to be the same font as welcome. So since we didn't ungroup welcome, we can easily go back and look. And it's Dutch 801. So we're going to go ahead and make a text. And we're going to use my name and his name. And it looks weird right now because it's not in the right text. So we're going to go ahead and find that one, which I've already forgotten the name of. I'm so sorry. Oh, I swear. Dutch. Okay. So if you guys don't know how to search a font, I can show you that too. You're going to go into your text. Oops. You can double click that. And when you come up here and go to your system, you can just type in part of what you know the name of the text is. And since I know it's Dutch, I can just select that. For this, we're going to have to pull this over and we're going to have to pull our names. Pull our names over. And then we'll scroll down because these are going to go at the bottom. And then we're going to add those laurels on it because I think it's going to be really pretty. And we'll, like I said, we're going to respace everything around a little bit. And I'm going to change the letter spacing on this and move them just a little closer together. And we can always change it if we don't like it. So for the curve, if we want it to curve the other direction, we just pull it this way. And we can make this bigger. And we can make it fill more of the bottom here. And actually, I might do it right at, let me see. I kind of wish it were bigger, so I'm going to go a little bit bigger. And again, I'm going to have to probably split this a little bit, which is fine. I'm actually going to move it up a little. Because we do have a little bit of a lip on the edge, so I'm probably going to have to move the welcome in a little bit too from the edge. Now, I know it looks super empty right now, and I'm actually going to zoom out just a little bit so you guys can see the whole thing. So it looks super spaced out, but what we're going to do is we're going to add the laurels that they have, which are these little leafies. So all we have to do is go to Google and just look up laurels and images. And it'll bring up a bunch of different options. So just find one that you like or will go with your design. And you can see there's a ton of different styles. You can buy them off of Etsy if you want. I usually just get them off of Google. So I've got one that's kind of a double-sided, and then I've got the single. So we're going to just look for one that's kind of one line of laurels. Or we can create our own out of a single line of laurel. I think that one's pretty good. I like this one. Don't know how well that one's going to clean up. Sometimes it's just a matter of like looking and seeing which ones will clean up nicely in Design Space as well. Also based on, you know, your design, because you might like these or, you know, maybe this style better. For me, I kind of like a simple laurel, and I don't want something super round because I don't want to go around the whole piece. So I need to find something that's going to be like a little bit flatter, which sometimes this can be kind of a pain. Now, see these ones, oh, they're so messy. Those ones would have been perfect for around the edges, but they're kind of messy. I like this one. You know what, we're going to use this one for around the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click Save Image As. I'm going to save it in my Cricut folder as Laurel 1 because we're going to need another set of laurels. And we might actually just use that one. Kind of like that one. But I think we might actually just use the same one throughout. We'll just kind of put it differently. We'll make it smaller maybe, unless I see something else in here that jumps out at me. I sort of like these two. All right, and then we'll save these ones because I like these ones too. So we'll do save image as, and we're just going to save them as Laurel 2. And all we have to do now is just go to upload, and let me make this bigger again. So you're going to go to upload, and we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. Click upload image, and you're going to click browse, and then in your folder that you saved them in, you're just going to find the Laurels. So we know we have Laurel 1 and Laurel 2. Oops, too far. So here's Laurel 1. And this one's already saved as an SVG. So I'm just going to click complex just because it gives it crisper edges. And I'm going to hit continue. And it should, with any luck, I'm going to hit preview so we can see it. And it should easily just be ready to go. Some of them, for whatever reason, make you choose. So we're going to go ahead and upload those. And I'm going to upload the other ones. So you're going to do the same thing. Go find your Laurels in your folder. And we're going to go ahead and select them. Again, I'm selecting complex. I'm just going to preview them to make sure they look clean. They're going to look a little blobby because they're small, but when we go to put them on and make them bigger, they'll look fine. So go ahead and select this. And we're just going to go ahead and select both images and insert them. And now we just got to find where they're hiding on our screen, which usually they put them over here for some reason. Now see how little this one is? When I open it, it should become slightly less blobby. So you can see it's far, far less blobby. And then we have this one. So now all we have to do is kind of space stuff around. So you can see they've got little laurel leaves coming out from the welcome. And so I'll probably use the single leaves for that. And then they have these ones for the bottom. So we'll just flip them, which you can do this a couple ways. You can either flip it manually or you can flip it this way by clicking flip, and you can flip horizontally. Now I'm going to need to resize a few things and move some things around, but that's okay. All I'm going to do is duplicate it, and I'm going to go flip, and I'm going to flip it horizontal so that it's the opposite way of that one, and we're going to go ahead and put that one over here. Now we may need to angle them a little bit differently as well, but it's fine, and we can always move them to like around our home or wherever we want to put them. So we'll move those around. But we're going to use these ones, I think, possibly down on the bottom. I wish they were a little less curvy. So what I might end up doing is delete this, and I'm going to end up using just these ones. So I'm just going to duplicate them again, and all I'm going to do is angle them myself so that they're not as curved, but you still have the Laurels. Now this one we're going to have to flip again. So we're going to flip it horizontally, and then we're going to go ahead and just turn it so that it matches this one. Just a little bit. Oops, I didn't mean to resize. That looks pretty good. I think they'll match up. Yeah, they match up fine. Again, this doesn't have to be exactly the same as the other one. It can be kind of your own design, and I sort of like that look. So we're going to go with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click both of them. I'm going to go ahead and weld them because I want them to cut as one piece, and then they'll size as one piece as well. So when I go to, oops, oh, don't do that. So when I go to cut this, we'll have this sized as well, and it'll cut as one single piece rather than two pieces. And I might angle it a hair that way, just so it looks a little more even. So now we're going to mess with the spacing on things, and I just sort of want to see. They look like they do take up quite a bit of space, so that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and keep grabbing the stupid circle behind everything. You want to make sure you don't do that, because every time you do, you got to undo it so it doesn't move, because you need to make sure that you have your spacing correct. So I may need to make the 2018 a little smaller. This part's honestly just a bunch of spacing and kind of figuring out where you want stuff to sit. I may need to put those up a little bit more just because ours doesn't have quite as much. And if you grab the wrong thing, just always make sure you hit undo. And for some reason, this keeps making me want to grab one thing and not the other. You'll have that sometimes where it'll think you want to grab something else and you totally don't. So just, you're going to play with that a little bit. And same with like these types of things, like our home is probably a little bit too big right now, and I'm probably going to have to move it up a little because we've got all this empty space up at the top that I don't love. Now what you can do is once you know that these two go together, you can select them both by hitting Control and clicking on both of them, and then you can attach them so that they'll move in the same time, and you can resize them the same time too. Just like how you kind of welded these two bad boys together, you can do something similar with these. And you can actually do that with all the words if you want to. I just feel like this is super open and empty, and that's like all crowded. So we may end up moving a few things around and resizing things. And a lot of times, like if you resize one thing, you can go over here and just remember that this is 1.714 wide, and you just go over here and select 1.714 and just hit enter, and it'll resize to the same size, so you don't have to duplicate it again, which is sort of nice. But I'm just trying to kind of size this stuff. I really don't want to resize our home. I like that kind of big. But I also like these little laurels. Now we could always do the laurels around the two. Okay, so I'm going to just scroll out a little bit so that I can see it. Yeah, and our home is a little too close now, so we'll just move that down. And like I said, a lot of this is just all about spacing and how you want it to look. So I think that looks really cute, and I like it, and it's ready. So what we're going to do now is we want to make sure that everything is going to fit or to stay together. So we can go ahead and get rid of the big square, and we can get rid of those because we don't need them. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll back in so we can see the sizing on everything and see what we can keep together. And we're going to just cut these in lines, and it doesn't matter what order they cut in, but we're going to keep the words together. So I want to weld this one because it's a cursive font, and it'll hold it as one font. Same with the established in the 2018. I'm going to weld that because this is cursive. Just like I welded these, it takes off all of the cut lines. Now, the problem being here, we have welcome and the Brian and Corinne that are too big to cut on one thing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just attach this. Those don't need to have anything, but we're going to need to slice this one, the welcome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it down, way down here, so it's way out of the way. And you can move stuff around now since you kind of know your spacing. And get things out of the way so that you can come down here because you're going to need to slice welcome into two pieces. I'm just going to do the welk as one and the ohm as a second. So what I'll do for that is I'll usually just use a shape, and I'll use like a circle. If it'll ever open a circle, show me a circle, bring me down. So you're going to need to bring your circle down, and I know it seems like a pain, it really is. But I've yet to figure out a better way to do this. So we're going to make our circle, and I'm actually going to unlock my circle to make it more of an oval, which hopefully then I can cover my entire OME with just the oval. And you're going to select the welcome and the oval and just slice them. What that's going to do is it's going to pull the OME out away from the other part of the word. Just keep the black one. You don't need to worry about the white. But what that's going to do is make that 5.5 and that 7.5, so it'll cut on one thing. And we're going to do the same thing with the Corinne and Brian because that's 13 inches. So we're just going to go ahead and slice it. I'm going to use another circle as an oval. And I'm just going to slice it between the and. Oops, and I already opened another circle, didn't I? I did. So we're going to go ahead and pull this down. And I'm going to slice it between the and. I'm just going to go ahead and unlock it. And sometimes you just got to move it around a little bit to make it cover the whole thing. And I got to slide this over. And it's okay if it's like huge, like way bigger than your piece, because you just want to make sure it covers it. We're going to go ahead and slice it again. You can get rid of the oval because you don't need it. We're going to keep the black and Brian, and we're going to go ahead and get rid of the gray and then we can get rid of the extra circle. So it looks like a lot of stuff to cut, and it kind of is. So let's go ahead and show you what it's going to look like. So we're going to click Make It, and it's going to need to go on 2 mats because of the way it wants to cut. You can sometimes trick it into fitting more stuff, because like I could move this 2 in between the welcome. I can probably move some things around, and so on their mat, if you want to move anything, like you know that it would fit better in between something else, you can go ahead and just move it by hand. So I know for a fact I can move this laurel down here, and then I can move this up here. And this just sort of helps you save vinyl. Like, I'm pretty sure I can move this to a different mat. So what we're going to do is click this. We're going to click move to another mat, and we're going to go ahead and select mat 1 and confirm. And what that's going to do is it's going to push it over here. But I know that if I cut it this way, it might fit. And it won't. Nope. Not quite. Actually, yes, it will. So I saved a little bit of vinyl there. And then here, I know that these would probably fit a little bit better if I just do that. So you're going to save yourself a little bit of vinyl here and there. That's the only way I've really found to do this. I might move this laurel wreath out a little bit just because we're going to use this whole thing anyways. But this will help you save a little bit of your vinyl, because we all know vinyl is not cheap. Alright, so we are going to go ahead and get our vinyl cut, and then we are going to click make it. So while the other sheet is cutting, I'm going to show you guys. I'm just going to weed this whole thing because there's writing and stuff all over it. Usually I would like cut out little bits and pieces and try to save what I could, but this one's hard to see and there's tons of writing. So it's just better off if we do it the other way. And I'm actually going to try to move this light a little bit. It is super hard to see this one. Just trying to see where everything's written so I can get a better idea of what's going to come up as I pull. Now what I'll do a lot of times with this is I'll end up getting a little bit pulled off, and then I just kind of trim it a bit so that I'm only pulling like small sections, because I don't want to accidentally get vinyl stuck to itself, and that I do that all the time. And so I'll just trim little bits off of it as I go, and that way you're not getting like huge chunks of vinyl stuck to other things. And especially with these big pieces, because there's so many like bits and pieces, you just need to be careful. And just as you're going, just make sure that you're not losing any letters, so you kind of know like what your project looks like and you know what words you should have. So just kind of keep your eye on it as you go. So I'm just going to trim this off just because it's a big long piece and I really don't want to fight with it. It's finished our second side, so we're going to go ahead and see, I got vinyl stuck to vinyl. This is why I can't be trusted. It's all curly because it was in a roll. So we're going to go ahead and unload this one. I'm going to get it off the mat. Now I will say when I got this first piece off the mat, I wrinkled it a little, but hopefully I can just press all of that out when I go to put it on the project. So I'm going to go ahead and weed this off camera, and when we come back we'll be ready to put it on our tray. So I cut all the bits and pieces up so that we had all the parts into different spots. I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. I cut the wrong number, and then I screwed it up twice trying to recut it. So I finally think I got the right one, so I'm going to have to pull that one off, and I'll just have to place him like kind of separately, but it's fine. It's no big deal. It is what it is. I think everybody messes up at least once or twice a day when doing this, so it's no big deal. But let me weed out that 7 so I have him. Yeah, I totally put 8. I was married in 2017, so I don't know where my brain is anymore. But what we're going to do is we're going to transfer tape all of our parts. I'm going to just show you real quick what the transfer tape is, and then I'm going to start placing it. But this is it. It's magic cover. I can get it at the Dollar Tree. It's $1. And you get a ton of it, and I think it's like 15 inches wide or something. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on transfer taping all of these, and all I'm going to do is just cut out a big piece, and then I'm just going to start cutting it down into bits and pieces for what sizes I need for each of my items. And when we're done doing that, we'll come back and we'll be able to put it on the tray. Okay, so we've transfer taped all of our parts. So now all we're going to do, and I have a little extra tape on the edges, which is great, because we're going to use that to sort of lay out our design. So I'm just going to quickly set it on here. They're going to all stick together, and that's fine for now. And you'll see that we had to cut the welcome, like I told you, into 2 pieces, so that one we'll have to pay attention to how we lay it. And same with the names at the bottom. We'll have to kind of watch how we're laying those. But this is just a quick, just take a look, make sure you sort of like your layout, and then you can go from there when you're doing your transfer tape. Now, if you've got something like this sucker who's got a lot of extra on him, I didn't cut it the first time I did this, but I'm going to go ahead and trim this off so he's out of the way, because I know that something sits kind of in between that. So I'm just going to trim off that extra piece. And it's okay if they overlap a little right now with the tape on them. I'm not really too worried about it. And we're just going to kind of play around with how everything's sitting. And I know that it's just a little bit higher. And then I'm going to put the established so that's kind of centered in there. And then I have these little laurels, which these ones were the ones that went around our home. And again, we're just sort of setting things in just to see how we like how they sit. And I'm going to actually trim that one down a little bit. And I'm probably going to need to trim some of this down just so I can get a better idea of how it's going to fit. I know some people don't need it, but I like to trim mine down a lot more so that I can see them and see kind of how they're going to sit a little bit better. So I'm going to trim that one way down. I'm going to go ahead and trim this laurel down quite a bit. It just helps me kind of visualize it on the project. And it just gives me a better stance to run off of, because this one's a big project. I mean, this is a huge piece of wood, and I don't usually work on projects quite this large, but I really wanted to make one of these for you guys so that you could see all the fun things that you can do with your Cricut. And these make really, really wonderful, like, wedding gifts. They make good first home gifts. If you're a realtor, these are fantastic. People love personalized things, especially when they buy their first home or a new home. And these would be so easy to do, especially if you are friends with the couple, or you know, can find out maybe a wedding date. Or you could even, like, leave that off, or you could put, you know, our new home, and then put the date that they purchased, things like that. So I think that kind of gives me a good idea of how my layout's going to go. I'm going to start down here at the bottom, and I'm going to work my way up. And normally that's how I do it. I think it's just easier for me. So I'm just going to move these two out of the way, and I'm going to set my name first. Well, nope, maybe not. I must be setting Brian first. So what I'm going to do is try to figure out where center is between the two of them. And I actually think that and sign might be the center, just because of the spacing. But I can count real quick. So all I do is I count the spacing. So we know we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, space 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15, half of 15 is 7.5. So all I do is I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So right between the and the Corinne is the middle. So I can just sort of find the middle on my board, which I know is right about here. And we're just going to peel our transfer tape off, and I really hope you guys can see the bottom of this board. It's hard for me to make sure you guys can see everything that I'm doing sometimes, especially on this big project. But I'm just going to go ahead and make sure all this peels, and sometimes it doesn't always peel real well, and I think this one cut a little deep in certain parts. And if I could find my Cricut scraper, we'd be doing great. Oh, there's so much stuff everywhere. Cricut scraper. Alright. So we're just going to scrape that R down a little bit better. It looks like it cut a little deep on that R. So I might start from the other end now that I got this end started. And I'm going to start from this end. And I actually, let's stop sticking to everything. I flip it over sometimes and I peel this direction, because you can kind of press the vinyl back onto the transfer tape. And you see how much easier that R came off that time. So now that we kind of know that the center is just on that other side of the and, we're going to find what we believe to be the center of the board. And we're just going to lay our name down. And I'm going to go ahead and use my scraper and just press it in. Now, a lot of people will Mod Podge these and things. I hate Mod Podge. I'm not even going to lie. I think it's useless and evil, and I will never use it. So I didn't do anything to this. I just stained the board. That was all I did. I didn't prep it with anything. I didn't clean it with alcohol. I just stained it. So there is our Brian, and now we're going to do my name. And this one we're going to have to press again. And sometimes I find I have to press them again, especially if they set for a few minutes. If I didn't just automatically right away peel them off of the backing. And with these, make sure you don't miss the dots in the eyes. Oops. And we'll make sure that E comes off. He does not want to. Now, if you get one like that that doesn't want to come off one direction, you can try peeling from another direction with them, and sometimes you can get them to come with you. It just depends. And sometimes it's just a fight the entire time, which this E apparently just does not want to come with me. But we got it. So now we're going to lay my name, and we're just going to kind of try to line it up best we can with the curve and with Brian and with the and. And I'm literally just eyeballing this stuff. There are probably a million ways you can measure this, but for me, I just eyeball it, and it usually comes out pretty good. So we're just going to go ahead and press all this down. So now you guys have kind of seen how we start this. I'm going to go ahead and get this all put together, and then we will come back and show you our final project. All right, everybody, we have this lovely tray all finished. It took quite a bit of time, a lot of transfer tape, a few screw-ups, but it's done, and I have to say that I love it. I hope you guys had so much fun designing this with me, and now you guys can see how easy this really is to do. It's just a labor of love. If you have any questions, please make sure to leave those below. I will be happy to answer them. If you have a tutorial you're dying to see, please make the comment about that, and I'll take care of it for you. Make sure you do subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos all the time, and hit that little bell icon, because when you do, it'll alert you to when I post a new video. I hope you guys have a great day.